11 minutes? How much that cost? The kids been starving. The homelessness is insane. Everybody don't even qualify for food stamps no more. The eggs, we really couldn't have allocated that money to decrease the egg prices.
And the fact that they've like made it like some sort of feminist thing.
Oh no, stop. The shoehorning of the feminism, I cannot.
Katy Perry, I don't give a fuck if they launch you to Uranus. We're not coming to your tour.
5, 4, command engine start. 2, 1, liftoff. New Shepard has cleared the tower.
Yeah. Come on, let's run away. Everybody wants a little bit of sweet escape.
We weren't just taking up space, we were making space for the future.
Changed all the locks on the doors.
She started it, and it's time for her to finish it.
Every day. We don't only have the time for what is bliss. Sometimes we gotta play.
Or you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. I hate this game.
You are officially an astronaut. Thank you so much.
I mean, it's science.
You get a photo with
You just disrespected out of me.
You're a woman with a daisy and a... Shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah, it's a place to go.
He named me as an ambassador to one of his organizations, the British Asian Trust.
You're not Asian.
I stay winning. I just like, I'm above that crap. I'm going to stay winning. You're going to try to hold me down. I'm going to come out like a phoenix rising.
Katy Perry has been a pop culture staple for over a decade. With hits like California Girls, Teenage Dream, and Firework, she has pretty much ruled the charts since the early 2010s. But along with her success, Katy Perry has had quite a lot of questionable decisions, as well as cultural controversies and confusing reinventions that have left a lot of fans as well as critics raising their eyebrows. So now the world has pretty much turned it into a sport to roll their eyes at Katy Perry. Once the reigning queen of bubblegum pop, Katy Perry has oddly become a universal punching bag, gathering side eyes from critics, casual listeners, and even a few diehard fans. But why? Why has the woman who gave us Teenage Dream in our teen years suddenly become public enemy number one of pop culture chatter? Well, it wasn't by chance. Katy Perry experienced what I would like to call the J-Lo effect, where people used to like you, but in today's climate, you kind of seem really insufferable. Even me, I saw Katy Perry go on an 11-minute space trip, and all I thought to myself is, the world's economy is crashing. People are starving out here, sweetheart. This is incredibly tone deaf. And honestly, I just got so angry that I had to just calm myself down. And I like to calm myself down with a game. And that's why today's video is proudly sponsored by Love and Pies. Now, as you guys know, Love and Pies has sponsored the channel once before, and honestly, it has become my daily escape. It is super relaxing and has honestly become the perfect way to unwind after a long, hard day at work. And I love the fact that it's just one of those pick up and play games, as in like you can just play it when you want to play it. You don't have like this active need to be on the game every single minute. So whether I'm playing a quick session on the sofa or a long session just before bed, I get to choose when I want to play, which honestly relieves a lot of pressure. So what's the story? Well, your mother's beloved cafe has burned down under mysterious circumstances. Now it's up to you to rebuild it from the ashes and uncover the secrets behind the fire. You do this by baking treats and serving customers in order to transform your cafe into the business of your dreams. But things take an unexpected turn when your high school sweetheart shows up, reigniting old feelings and adding just a touch of drama. Now, unlike other merge games, you have the power to choose how you want your cafe to look. So whether your style is modern or country kitsch, every decision feels rewarding as you are able to bring your vision to life. Now, the aim of the game is to match fitting ingredients in order to make pies or baked goods. And then all you have to do is serve it to your customers. The tips you earn help you finance all of the upgrades and decorations, making it really fulfilling to serve your customers so that you can expand your cafe. Now at this point in the game, I've managed to get the outdoor area as well as the inside of the cafe completely decorated. And I've kind of gone for a more pink retro style of cafe. And whilst the game can be challenging, it's not very difficult to have more expansions, because it literally feels as if every single time I log into this game, I'm given even more items that help me serve even more customers, making even the most laziest gamer pretty fulfilled. So if you would like to get your hands on the Love and Pies game, definitely click the link in the description box down below. And if you click my link and get to day 3 in-game within 1 week, you can claim 200 energy and 50 gems. And trust me, those are very valuable. So don't forget to click the link in the description box down below, or you can use the QR code which will be somewhere on this screen, and download Love and Pies now. Thank you so much, Love and Pies, for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Yeah, it's a place to go. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow. Oh.
Meet Katy Perry, or if we're getting formal, Catherine Elizabeth Hudson. But honestly, when has anyone ever called her that? Born on October 25th, 1984, Katy Perry has gone from gospel singer to full-blown pop royalty. She is one of the best-selling music artists of all time, and we're talking over 143 million records flying off the shelves and streaming into playlists around the world. Known for her bold, campy style, in fact, Rolling Stone as well as Vogue actually dubbed her the Queen of Camp, Katy has been a major force shaping the sound and look of pop music. She was actually one of the highest paid female musicians in the world, not once, but twice. Once in 2015 and another time in 2018. And Billboard basically called her one of the best pop artists of all time. And we're talking like the categories of Lady Gaga, Madonna, etc, etc. So she was definitely in that upper echelons of pop artists. But before her universal hits like Fireworks or Raw, a teenage Katy Perry actually dropped a gospel album in 2001 under her real name, which is Katy Hudson.
I do this for me and God. I do this as a release. I do this as a spiritual growth, actually. It's just some kind of, I think, unique communication that I can really connect with God.
It didn't exactly set the world on fire, but hey, that was a good first attempt. But then by 17, she pretty much just packed up and moved to Los Angeles to pursue international fame. And that's when she reinvented herself as Katy Perry, using Perry, which is her mother's maiden name. So she's in LA, she's chasing her dreams, but it wasn't exactly an easy road. She actually had a dropped record deal, but then she eventually struck gold when she signed to Capitol Records. The result of that would be her first pop album, One of the Boys, in 2008. Now, this album was a smash hit. It had loads of different songs such as I Kissed a Girl, as well as the extremely popular Hot and Cold. Shortly after this, then in 2011, Katy Perry released the album Teenage Dream, my personal favorite. And the album literally boasted 5 #1 singles, such as California Girls, Fireworks, and TGIF, Last Friday Night. And these songs became anthems for an entire generation of pop listeners. Her third pop album, Prism, followed in 2013 with her songs Raw and Dark Horse, cementing her as a legend. Not to mention, some of these music videos, these really big budget music videos, have hit over 1 billion views on YouTube and Vivo. Since then, Katy Perry has kept it coming with her album Witness in 2017 after a short hiatus, Smile in 2020, and her latest album 143 in 2024. And that was the interesting thing about Katy Perry. She always had like loads of different eras, constantly experimenting and constantly evolving her music. And as you can imagine, Katy Perry has racked up an immense amount of awards. She has a Billboard Spotlight Award, a Brit Award, a Juno, 4 Guinness World Records, and enough Billboard and AMA Music Awards to fill up an entire trophy case. But these aren't the only projects that Katy Perry has been involved in. She was also a host of American Idol. She voiced the voice of Smurfette in the Smurfs movie, and she dropped her very own shoe line, Katy Perry Collections, as well as starring in her own documentary, Katy Perry, This Is a Part of Me. Today, she is worth an estimated $350 million. So it's safe to say that Katy Perry isn't just living the teenage dream, she's owning it. So why, after listing all of these achievements, do people have an issue with Katy Perry? Some would say it was her most recent trip to space sponsored by billionaire Jeff Bezos, but honestly, I would say that this was a long time coming. With a series of actions that have left her audience feeling rather hot and cold. You see what I did there? Did you get it? Did you get the joke? So let's take a dip into Katy Perry's numerous controversies so that we can figure out where it went drastically wrong, to the point that now she can't even sell out her tours.
Yeah, it's a place to go. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow. Oh.
Okay, so one of the reasons that people seem to dislike Katy Perry is because of her numerous occasions of cultural appropriation and her lack of understanding as to the significance of this appropriation to the various cultures it is that she is appropriated. An article from Mic magazine from August 2014 pretty much details the 4 main events that have taken place in the early part of Katy Perry's career that have switched a lot of people off. It's titled 5 Reasons Why Katy Perry is Pop Music's Worst Cultural Appropriator. So basically, to give you guys the TLDR, on July 30th, 2014, Katy Perry did an interview with the Rolling Stone where they asked her about all of the issues surrounding Katy Perry's cultural appropriation, in which many people felt as if Katy Perry didn't really appropriately address these concerns and kind of showed a level of privilege and a lack of understanding and a lack of acknowledgement as to why she was actually receiving so much heat at the time. Around that time, Katy Perry had released one of her singles, This Is How We Do, where she is seen donning cornrows all over her hair, and a lot of people felt like this was inappropriate, especially given Katy Perry's physicalization as she was performing the number. A lot of people saw it as her attempting to act black or act hood. And this won't be the first time that Katy Perry is accused of this. So in this Mic article, they actually talk about the Rolling Stone article. They state, in that interview, the 29-year-old artist was asked about cultural appropriation and how she's been called out for it by numerous people of color. Brushing off the criticism, Katy defended herself and argued that her intentions were pure. This is the perfect example of what happens when you take a clueless person with a heaping helping of white privilege and precious little substantive awareness of it. I guess I'll just stick to baseball and hot dogs and that's it, Perry said. I know that quote is gonna fuck me in the ass, but can't you appreciate a culture? I guess like everybody has to stay in their lane. I don't know. Earth to Katy Perry. Cultural appropriation is not flattery or appreciation. It's offensive and disrespectful to your fans, many of whom are having a hard time still liking you, since they are disappointed by a string of racist stereotypes. So as we can see, even way back in 2014, there were a lot of people who were getting turned off by Katy Perry's actions. Her newest video is the tip of the iceberg, however. This isn't the first time, and it probably won't be the last, that Katy Perry is seen perpetuating racist tropes in a music video, a concert, or an award show performance. The following are some of Perry's most egregious examples. So number 1, we have This Is How We Do. So the song This Is How We Do actually takes a sample from Montel Jordan's This Is How We Do It. You know, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. That is a bop, girl. That is a bop. But the article continues. The phrase has since become a part of a much more common vernacular, but it has black cultural roots, which makes Perry's behavior in her new video associated with the term so much more disrespectful. Perry is first seen in the video reclining whilst wearing a dark braided ponytail, holding up a watermelon and chucking up the deuces, playing into the trope of the African Americans being fiends for fried chicken and watermelon. Perry's hairstyle and expression, meanwhile, can be traced back to the cultural expressions of many black women in America. Not content to stop with the African American stereotypes, Perry goes on to perpetuate that all manicurists at nail salons are Asian people with the lyrics, "Now we're talking astrology, getting our nails did all Japanesey." Perhaps the worst moment in this video comes during the song's bridge, where Katy Perry stops singing and starts talking in a voice completely not her own. It's that oh so dreaded blaccent that's becoming the new hot trend in pop music, spearheaded by Iggy Azalea. And girl, Iggy Azalea is a whole different conversation for another day. The girl is Australian. Doubling down on this attitude, Perry then dons cornrows with gelled down baby hair and painted fingernails, while she responds to a message from an apparent frenemy, Jessica Thought. Thought is a slang acronym that translates to that hoe over there. Now, when I first read this article, I wasn't exactly familiar with the This Is How We Do song. So I went back and had a look, and oh my god, it was not a good look. The fact that I didn't see anyone talking about this at the time. Maybe it was big news, but I definitely don't remember seeing anybody talk about how, you know, how much of an odd choice it was for Katy Perry and team to say, yeah, A-okay. Like, is there a black person in the room who could have said, this is not a good look? It's just, I don't know. It was a very odd choice. Then we have number 2, unconditionally racist. When Katy Perry opened the show last fall for the American Music Awards, viewers around the globe witnessed her clueless racism firsthand in a performance of Unconditionally, apparently inspired by Japanese culture and perhaps an unhealthy fascination with geishas. During the performance, Perry had donned what many had termed yellow face while dressed up as a geisha, culturally appropriating and misaligning a portion of Japanese entertainment typically performed in a much more socially aware context. Between the lack of Asian women on stage, the heavy-handed use of bowing and shuffling around choreography, and the ethno-confused set and costume design, Perry presented her viewers a one-dimensional Eastern fantasy drawn by a Western eye out of the gate. And this was written by an MIC contributor who is half Korean, and added that the tropes that Perry plays up are the ones that get her exoticized via Orientalism on a routine basis in the dating world. Perry's geisha getup is flat, inaccurate, sexualized identity that has nothing to do with Asian cultures. She pandered to a white audience by all but literally skinning Asian women. Then we have the music video for Dark Horse. In the video for Dark Horse, Perry runs amok with appropriation of a different kind, as it basically feels as if it could have been inspired by ancient Egypt. She turns an entire cultural aesthetic identity into a costume. And I must say, this is not something that I genuinely thought of when I watched the Dark Horse music video, because that was an extremely popular single for Katy Perry. And whilst I'm not a Katy Perry listener, I am a fan of Katy Perry to a degree. Like, for me, my favorite Katy Perry song, sorry, I'm deviating right now. You know that song where she goes, "When I'm with him, I am thinking of you." I fucking love that song. Oh, it makes me cry every time. That song makes me cry. But that's the thing. It was like back at a time when Katy Perry was more authentic to her own personal brand. And as we're going to see as we go through today's video, a lot of Katy's moves to kind of stay on top and stay in the media zeitgeist is just oddly trying on different hats, and none of them are her own. So back to the Dark Horse video, Perry adds even a degree of racist and westernized condescension in the video, as it's associated with the theme of playing with magic, present in the lyrics performed in the video via the apparent members of the Egyptian Queen's court. The problem here lies in the fact that Katy Perry thinks it's acceptable to use another country or ethnic group's culture as a costume or as a prop, let alone for one of her countless bubblegum pop songs. This mocks the stereotype of the country and its people for the sake of pop music. They also note that that this has been done once before in pop culture with the song Walk Like an Egyptian. But they continue by saying the same dynamics operate within Katy Perry's heavy use of the imagery and even the ancient Egyptian cultural dynamics in Dark Horse. Problematically, everyone in Perry's court, including the servants, appear darker than she is. Their blue paintings and rags juxtaposed to Perry's pristine white and royal attire, highlighting the racial disparities in high definition clarity. I don't know, I feel like that might be a little bit of a reach because weren't they blue? But the last thing they bring up is red face realness, where it looks as if from this photo, this is something that I was not aware of, that Katy Perry was donning an outfit that looks as if it is inspired by Native American attire. And as we all know, in the year of 2025, girl, that is a complete and total no-no. So it states, during a 2010 trip to the Coachella Music Festival, Katy wore her interpretation of what a Native American woman dresses like. She even posed for the cameras, allegedly playing into the hand-mouth communication technique often seen as a trope in country western style flicks. Next up, we have black women's butts. The article continues. Because it's not enough just to hire black women who can dance, Perry had a pack of curvy black women dressed as mummies parading around her in her recent concert performance in London. These backup dancers were all outfitted with exaggerated lip paint, likely done for artistic purposes, but also bringing to mind the perceptions of black people having relatively bigger and fuller lips than Caucasians or other ethnic groups. So there have been numerous different occasions that Katy Perry has kind of just donned another culture or another ethnic group's outfit, stylization, or even just historical references as a costume, which is one of the primary things that kind of ticks that box for cultural appropriation. Now, Katy Perry did eventually apologize about all of this. This is from an article in 2017, so a couple of years later. She specifically speaks about the geisha situation as well as the this is how we do situation. And honestly, I don't know whether these qualify as apologies, but I'll let you take a listen and then you can judge for yourself. So let's take a quick look at what it is that Katy Perry said.
I've made several mistakes, even in like the This Is How We Do video about how I wore my hair, and having a hard conversation with one of my empowered angels, Cleo, about what does it mean? Why can't I wear my hair that way? Or what is the history behind wearing the hair that way? And she told me about the power in black women's hair and how beautiful it is and the struggle. And I listened and I heard and I didn't know, and I won't ever understand some of those things because of who I am. I will never understand, but I can educate myself, and that's what I'm trying to do along the way. And even in, you know, my intention to like appreciate Japanese culture, I did it wrong with a performance, and I didn't know that I did it wrong until I heard people saying I did it wrong. And sometimes that's what it takes, is it takes someone to say, out of compassion, out of love, hey, this is where the origin is, you know, and do you understand? And not just like a clap back, you know, because it's hard to hear those clap backs sometimes, and your ego just wants to turn from them. And I've been so grateful to have great teachers and great friends that will really hold me accountable, even when I said that I wasn't a feminist because I didn't know what that word meant. You know, someone pulled me aside in a quiet space and didn't shame me, didn't judge me. My friend Shannon, she just says, sweetheart, I love you, and I just want to show you what the Webster's definition in the dictionary says about what it is to be a feminist, and it's just equality. And so, like...
So are you a feminist?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
I am a feminist, and I think it's a beautiful thing to want equality for all females, for all women.
In another article by Uproxx, they state that Katy Perry actually delves into this further, where she kind of does the, I don't know how to explain it, the I have black friends trope. So the article states, she spoke about the issues and admitted, I have lots of white privilege. Finally, she said that she wants the segregation of the industry industry to end for everybody to coexist regardless of race. I don't want to live in a segregated world, especially in music. I've been able to collaborate with Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, Juicy J, Migos. How can I collaborate with people and lift them up and give them the spotlight? How can I lift them up in a way that's good? And I'm not sure whether this was Katy Perry's intention, but for me personally, it's very much giving the white savior complex, but I digress. But it seems as if this swift transition of Katy Perry kind of trying on these cultural hats wasn't necessarily her own idea. Well, that's according to Trace Cyrus, who is Miley Cyrus's brother, who states that Katy Perry's entire Witness era, where she shaved her head and started doing more urban-inspired music with collaborations from Juicy J, Migos, and Nicki Minaj, that he believes that it was heavily inspired by Miley Cyrus' Bangers era, where we know there was a little bit of cultural appropriation there too. This is what Trace Cyrus had to say about Katy Perry extremely recently. We're talking like within the last 2 months.
I first knew Katy Perry though, and her team were lame as fuck when her career was first dying, and they were like, what can we do? What worked for Miley? She cut her hair off and it broke the internet, and everybody freaked out, and she bleached it blonde. We should do that with you, Katy. Katy's like, yeah, we should. Should we do it like slightly different? No, we're going to do it exactly the same. And also, Miley started working with Mike Will Made It, Wiz Khalifa, Juicy J. Remember Jay's on My Feet? You know, she started to transition doing more hip-hop stuff. We're going to get you in with the hottest group, the Migos. You're going to do exactly what the Miley did and blow up. Guess what? It didn't work. And then they just tried some EDM song or some shit because EDM's hot. Didn't work. Now we're going to send your ass to space. Didn't work. It's not working. It's backfiring. Stop.
But if that wasn't bad enough, not just culture vulturing from various different cultures, but there's also Katy Perry becoming the British Asian Trust ambassador appointed by King Charles, which is absolutely bizarre to me because Katy Perry is neither British nor Asian.
I met His Majesty to be a few years ago, and he named me as an ambassador to one of his organizations, the British Asian Trust, which is an organization that helps fight to end child trafficking. So I'm also an ambassador for UNICEF, and it really aligned with my values, and that's mostly why I'm going to be an ambassador and to say, hey, this is me from the USA. I love it. But it's so cool.
And again, this plays into the whole white savior complex, which is the idea that Western, often at times white, celebrities and people of interest feel the need to save a particular demographic. And it also goes hand in hand with overlooking other British Asian people who could have potentially have been the much needed representation for the British Asian Trust. But I just don't think that being philanthropic is a reason alone to have such a prestigious title that is heavily tied to a particular racial and cultural demographic that you have no part in, nor have you ever advocated for before this moment in time. It is important for us to choose people who understand the experience, not just somebody who has a famous name. But cultural appropriation isn't the only reason that people dislike Katy Perry right now. There's also the very tumultuous Dr. Luke situation and her involvement, and why many people will never regard Katy Perry as a feminist.
Yeah, it's a place to grow. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow. Oh.
Okay, so just to give you a brief TLDR of the entire Dr. Luke case with Kesha. In 2014, Kesha filed a lawsuit against Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke is a super famous producer who pretty much had his hands all over Kesha's career. She accused him of sexual assault, battery, and emotional abuse and harassment over the course of their entire relationship. Kesha claimed that Dr. Luke had drugged her and assaulted her, and that he had been emotionally and verbally abusive to her for several years. At the time, Dr. Luke hit back with his own lawsuit, where he sued Kesha for defamation as well as breach of contract, because from Dr. Luke and his lawyers' team perspective, Kesha was only making all of this up in order to get out of the contract it is that she had signed with Dr. Luke and RCA. Now, what makes this lawsuit extremely complicated wasn't just the fact that Kesha was fighting against sexual assault and sexual abuse. She was also fighting to get free from her contract with Dr. Luke so she would never have to work with her quote-unquote abuser again. Or should I say her alleged abuser again? I have to use those words because they settled. However, the court stated that Kesha had to stay bound to her contract, meaning that she couldn't just walk away even though she stated that she couldn't safely work alongside Dr. Luke. This caused a huge public outcry with various different celebrities showing their support for Kesha, such as Lady Gaga as well as Kelly Clarkson, causing the hashtag Free Kesha to go viral, as well as people attempting to boycott Sony Music, who was Dr. Luke's business partner at the time. In the middle of all this, various different pop stars who worked with Dr. Luke got dragged into the drama, most specifically Lady Gaga as well as Katy Perry. Now, Lady Gaga openly as well as privately supported Kesha throughout the time of this lawsuit, but in the legal fight, private text messages between Katy Perry and Lady Gaga had become public, and it was now important evidence. In some of these messages between Katy Perry and Lady Gaga, Kesha alleges that Katy Perry also was sexually assaulted by Dr. Luke. However, Katy Perry stated this was completely untrue, and she basically denied that Dr. Luke had ever assaulted her in any capacity, and in fact, when she was called to testify, basically stated that she wasn't attacked and didn't want any involvement in the case at all. This led to Dr. Luke using Katy's statement as a way to state that Kesha had been making the entire thing up. So basically spreading misinformation in an attempt to hurt his career, hence the defamation case. So whilst Lady Gaga supported Kesha publicly, she also got sworn in on a deposition of which she was a willing participant. Katy Perry, however, was not. So after 10 years of lawsuits, the situation between Dr. Luke and Kesha got settled in 2023. They reached a confidential agreement, which means that everything got settled outside of the courts, without either side technically quote-unquote winning. As part of the settlement, Kesha stated in an Instagram post that she wanted nothing but peace for all parties involved, whilst Dr. Luke pretty much maintained that he did not sexually assault Kesha. By this point, Kesha has been able to release music on her own without the hands of Dr. Luke being all over her projects, as she was no longer tied to her record contract. So after this 10-year ordeal was finally over, in 2024, Katy Perry would then go on to release a single called Woman's World, which was not so critically acclaimed. This song was supposed to be a quote-unquote feminist anthem, which was produced in part by the disgraced Dr. Luke. This led many people to feel like this was completely and totally tone deaf, and honestly the song was pretty much a commercial flop. But Katy Perry wasn't just viewed as a bad ally, she also had an entire law put in place to safeguard against elderly abuse. Like literally the law is named after Katy Perry. I shit you not. I wish that I was exaggerating this point, but I'm not. So let's get into Katy Perry and the nuns.
Yeah, it's a place to go. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow. Oh.
Okay, so before we get into the Perry Act and Katy Perry's alleged elder abuse, we first have to talk about Katy Perry's trademark lawsuit that took place against an Australian brand owner called Katy Jane Taylor. So Australian brand owner Katy Taylor began selling her apparel under the name Katy Perry back in 2006. She also registered this trademark in Australia in 2008. Around this same time, Katie Elizabeth Hudson, aka Katy Perry, started using her pseudonym of Katy Perry. And then, as we know, she rose to international fame and stardom in 2008 with her single I Kissed a Girl. In 2009, Katy Perry's legal team then sent a cease and desist to Katy Taylor, alleging trademark infringement, of which Katy Taylor contested, which led to this whole entire lawsuit. So with trademarks, they have to be registered by country. For instance, when I was back in my Petty Paige days, my trademark for Petty Paige was registered here in the United Kingdom, and I also had to get a separate trademark for the United States. Now, these trademarks, they are not cheap at all. I think my trademark for the United States was around $400. And with there being over 180 countries, most people don't tend to trademark their name across the world. So they usually just apply for trademarks in areas that they intend to distribute it. Well, Katy Perry would then go on to create her own line of shoes called Katy Perry Collection. And she would distribute these shoes globally, including places like Australia. And this became an even bigger deal for Katy Taylor, as this would directly infringe against Katy Taylor and her brand, as they were kind of in the same genre of apparel to some degree. And this lawsuit spanned over several years, which is something that a lot of these celebrities like to do, to be able to drain all of your financial resources in order to fight and plead your own case.
In 2009, I received a whole lot of legal documents saying stop sale of your clothes, stop any advertising material, and stop your website. Otherwise, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. And they were opposing my trademark. So I have the trademark here in Australia, Katy Perry. And it was completely horrific.
Katy says she feared she'd lose everything she'd ever worked for. That's not Perry nice.
Did you feel bullied? They thought that they could really bully and intimidate me. I really think that they just were like, oh, here's a young Australian designer. We can just send her all these legal documents and get her to sign over her trademark.
The pop star's team dropped the case the morning of, never giving Aussie Perry any reason why. 10 years on, the tables have turned, and our Perry is taking on the singing superstar.
Now, this is a very different situation. For the past 10 years, I've had to watch her infringe on my trademark, but I've been really helpless and powerless to actually do anything about it. And now I'm grateful to be able to stand up for it. So this time I'm standing up for all of small business and going, you know what? Enough's enough. For the past 10 years, you've infringed on my trademark. I'm now in a position, I've got the resources and the backing behind me and a lot of support, and I'm going to stand up and say, no more.
So in April 2023, the courts actually partially ruled in favor of Katy Taylor, finding that Katy Perry's merchandise sold in 2014 and 2015 throughout her tour, specifically her Australian tour, would directly infringe against Katy Taylor's Katy Perry brand, and that Katy Perry was in fact liable for these infringements. However, in November 2024, the full court of the federal court overturned the previous decision. The judges concluded that Taylor's trademark was not validly registered, as she was aware of Perry's international reputation at the time of the registration. They also noted that the similarity in the names would cause consumer confusion. Consequently, Taylor's trademark was cancelled, and she was ordered to pay Perry's legal costs. So not only did she lose this years-long legal battle that I imagine was financially extensive for her, she also lost her trademark and then was ordered to pay for Katy Perry's legal fees. Which is crazy because, I mean, Katy Perry is like a multi-millionaire. You couldn't have just left that and just said, okay, I've got the copyright, and like not attempted to get this woman to pay you back for your legal fees. This is a small business owner compared to you, this massive giant juggernaut. And the whole bizarre thing about this situation is that trademark infringement is pretty straightforward. If you have something first, then it's yours. So for Katy Taylor's lawyer, who did an interview, he basically said this was a cut and close case. case. Like, yes, of course we are going to win. And then to find out several years later, I think it's like 18 years at the end of it, that actually, no, you're going to lose your trademark and you have no rights here, is kind of wild. Or because she may have known who Katy Perry was in 2008? I don't know. That's very dicey for me. Because whilst One of the Boys was a fantastic album and did extremely great, I feel like it would be a misrepresentation of the truth to believe that everybody knew who Katy Perry was at that point. I would say that her following album would be the album that really catapulted Katy Perry to the stardom that she has today, and the brand recognition that she had behind her name.
It's been importing and distributing and making sales in Australia for the last several years without the authority of our client who owns the registered mark.
Rob Silberstein is Aussie Katy's lawyer.
She's obviously got substantial resources behind her, but I don't think that that really has any impact on the fact that she has, as a third party, used our client's rights without our client's authorization.
Do you think Katy Perry, the pop star, sees herself as above the law?
She'd had an interaction with our client about our client's rights. That was not resolved in a way that ended up with our client giving authorization to Katy Perry, the singer, to use the mark, and yet she's just sort of gone ahead and done it anyway. So I suppose your expression, is she behaving like she's above the law, might be one way of framing the way she's conducted herself.
It could have been just quite easy for it to be Katy Perry has this trademark everywhere, just Australia, we just have to play a slightly different game. But no, it seems to me at least that Katy Perry wanted to use her lawyers and use her money and use the system to bully somebody out of something it is that they had, which I personally believe was a legitimate right they had. But this isn't Katy Perry's only legal issue. In fact, she has had an entire law made surrounding her alleged shady business practices. So in short, Katy Perry basically bullied some nuns out of a convent. That is the only way that I can explain it. And one of them died, with their last words being, "Katy Perry, please stop." I wish I was joking. I wish I was like literally inflating the truth for drama, but this is actually what took place. There was a whole situation that took place in terms of real estate and property involving Katy Perry and one of her property managers that started the Perry Act, which is what it's known as, which aims to safeguard vulnerable individuals, particularly seniors, from exploitation in high-stakes real estate transactions. So there is a high-profile case that took place between Katy Perry and an 84-year-old veteran. Their name was Carl Westcott. Now, Westcott was suffering with Huntington's disease, and he was under the effects of pain medication following his surgery. This is when he sold his mansion to Katy Perry and her business manager, Bernie Goodvie. Shortly after signing the contract, Carl tried to rescind the sale, citing that he was mentally impaired at the time of the transaction and didn't quite understand or fully understand what it was that he was agreeing to. However, despite Carl's efforts to reverse the agreement, Katy Perry pursued the sale through legal means. This led many people feeling as if Katy Perry was involved in elderly abuse. The man states that he was cognitively unaware at that moment in time, and that we need to protect vulnerable individuals in high-stakes real estate deals. Now, as you can imagine, the optics of this was not very good for Katy Perry, and it caused quite a lot of outrage. So in response to this, California legislators wrote up and passed a law that they dubbed as the Perry Act, which is officially titled the Elderly Protection in Real Estate Transactions Act. So this new act now brings in some more rules when it comes to these kind of high-stake real estate deals with elderly people. There is now a medical evaluation requirement, making sure that this person is able to agree and has capacity to consent. There are now enhanced disclosure requirements, where the buyers have to state whether they intend to, rent it out, sell it, or do some kind of development on said property, preventing predatory transactions under the guise of benign deals, as well as now induced penalties for coercion. So if you are seen to be coercing a elderly individual into a real estate deal, you will now be forced to face a penalty. And there may be punitive damages applied to that. So this act was literally put in place to protect the elderly from predatory transactions, spearheaded behind the legal case between Carl and Katy Perry, as well as her business partner, where a sale was done where significant emotional damage was caused to not only Carl, who obviously, poor guy, had Huntington's disease and he was, recovering and doing his best, as well as the elderly nuns at the convent, when one of the nuns actually at the court hearing passed away, like literally in the court, with her last words being, "Katy, please stop." Like, wow. Katy, what a legacy to leave behind.
Now to a tragic turn on the oncoming feud between pop star Katy Perry and a group of nuns trying to stop the singer from moving into their former convent.
One of the sisters suddenly collapsed and died during a court hearing today. KCAL9's Tom Wade is live at the convent in Los Feliz with the latest. Tom.
And Elsa, I can tell you this has been a very ugly battle for the ownership of this convent. It's been Katy Perry aligned with the Archdiocese versus these nuns. One of them died in court today.
Katy Perry said she was going to close it. It was going to be her home.
That's Sister Catherine Rose explaining why she wanted to block the sale of her former convent to pop star Katy Perry. Rose collapsed and died in court today during a hearing involving the ongoing battle to prevent Perry from taking over the property. Late this evening, Archbishop Jose Gomez released a statement that reads in part, Sister Catherine Rose Holtzman, IHM, Immaculate Heart of Mary, passed away suddenly at the age of 89. Sister Catherine Rose served the church with dedication and love for many years, and today we remember her life with gratitude.
So yes, Katy Perry was a catalyst behind a whole law that was put in place to safeguard the dignity and the autonomy of elderly people. So after a years-long shit show of a reputation, what does Katy Perry decide to do in the year of 2025? She decides to go to space, and she wants us to clap.
Yeah, it's a place to go. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow. Oh.
Okay, so let's be real. When most of us heard that Katy Perry was going to space, none of us were excited, none of us were cheering, none of us were clapping, nobody cared. And it's not because space isn't like cool or exciting, but because it's somehow now become the playground for the ultra rich, whilst the rest of the world burns and drowns and struggles to buy groceries. Her trip didn't come off as like inspirational. It just came off as extremely out of touch. Just another uber rich celebrity using the planet as a backdrop for their ego. I mean, we are at a time where people are literally living paycheck to paycheck. The middle class is pretty much becoming non-existent. Some people aren't living at all because of the devastation of war, or climate disasters, or poverty. So spending millions of dollars on a zero-gravity roller coaster just seems completely pathetic. I mean, Katy Perry really tries to present herself as this fun and easygoing pop star. But jetting off to space at a time when people are literally losing their homes to floods and wildfires sends a really loud and clear message that
I'm rich enough not to care.
And also, let's be for real, let's talk about the environmental impact of all of this. Rocket launches dump an absurd amount of pollution into the Earth's atmosphere, which is essentially extremely bad for the planet that we're currently residing on. So this isn't just like a eco-footprint thing, this is massive carbon emissions. Also, a few celebrities can go up into space, float around for a bit, and say, I'm an astronaut.
You are officially an astronaut.
Thank you so much. And for Katy Perry, who again is a philanthropist and has previously championed environmental causes, just feels a little bit hypocritical. It's performative. Climate action isn't just like a trend or an Instagram campaign. It's about all of us making active, real choices. And Katy Perry chose her ego over Earth. And then there's a bigger picture of it all. Why are we letting millionaires and billionaires claim space as their resort from Earth? Space is about human achievement, about science. It's about exploration and testing the bounds of human knowledge as we know it today. Yet somehow we have commercialized this to a point that it becomes an experience for the ultra elite, bought and sold while the rest of us are sitting here dealing with the fallout of climate change, essentially of the fallout of their greed. here on Earth. And the worst part was the framing that this was historic and pushing boundaries. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't advancing humanity. This is about rich people showing off. And Katy Perry isn't a pioneer. She is a passenger on a very expensive distraction. And quite frankly, the rest of us here on planet Earth are annoyed and tired of watching celebrities cosplay as heroes, whilst doing absolutely nothing to address the very real problems that they help to perpetuate. So yeah, people are mad that Katy Perry went to space, as they should be. Because whilst Katy Perry floats around in the atmosphere, the rest of us are trying desperately to keep our feet on solid ground. Oh, I ate that. So yeah, Katy Perry brings a daisy into space. Katy Perry has a butterfly in space. Katy Perry sings a song in space. Katy Perry kisses the ground after she goes to space for all of 11 minutes. I've had shits that have taken longer than that space exploration trip. I could literally order an Uber Eats delivery and Katy Perry will have returned back from space sooner than I will have had my meal. So when Katy Perry says stuff like, it's not about going to space, it's about making space.
We weren't just taking up space, we were making space.
Honestly, shut the fuck up, girl. Shut up. Now, more recently, Katy Perry is doing a tour, and I believe personally that this was a promotional thing for her tour, because currently her tour isn't being received very well. And many people on TikTok have speculated that she was supposed to use this space trip as the entire theme around her tour, her current tour. And because it didn't go over so well, she just didn't explain what the thematic reason was for the way she displayed her tour. So it's left a lot of Katy Perry fans completely confused as to what she's trying to achieve with the set design and all of that kind of stuff, because it doesn't coincide with the album itself. Take a look at what a couple of TikTokers had to say.
I think you are correct. I think she was supposed to do an astronaut-themed concert, but since her space travel went over badly, they had to cut it at the last minute. Now, there have been a lot of things that people have been talking about on the internet about her Lifetime's concert, whether there are bits and pieces of sort of storylines, elements, apparatus, apparati? I don't know. Things from other people's concerts, which is fine. Get inspiration, a lot of people didn't mind, Kylie Minogue's sort of inspiration showing up on Beyonce's tour sets. But this one I think is more about energy. And this could be the reason why there is a different energy. Maybe there was a completely different concept that had to be ixnayed at the very last minute because of the backlash that she was getting from the Blue Origin astronaut vibes. Tell me your thoughts. This could be the reason. This could be the real, yeah, good job. I'll meet you in the comments.
And this is exactly why I say that Katy Perry is experiencing the J-Lo effect. Katy Perry goes to space, releases a terrible tour that now she is struggling to sell seats for. J-Lo produces a multi-million-dollar budget movie to sell her tour that she eventually has to say isn't happening anymore because nobody was buying those seats. All of this self-serving, self-fellatio things that these ego-driven celebrities do honestly grind my gears. Because my God, the world is suffering. There are so many greater causes that you could use your influence and platform for. But yet, like you always do, all you celebrities choose yourself. And that's why we, the general public, are just getting exhausted of seeing these people do stupid shit. It's just annoying. We don't want to hear about it. Go be rich over there without pushing it in our face. We can't afford eggs. We can over here in the United Kingdom. Sorry about you guys. So with that being said, what is my final thoughts on this entire situation?
Yeah, it's a place to grow. There's no mistakes and everybody got that summer glow.
Why does everybody hate Katy Perry? Because she's a dick. She has been. She's always been a dick. She's always been a dick. I don't think that anything has changed. I remember watching Katy Perry in the beginning when she was dating Travis McCoy from Gym Class Heroes. Do you guys remember that? My scene kids, the kids who were scene kids, millennials. If you were a scene kid, I was a scene kid too. If you're a scene kid and you remember that era, I remember her being in Gym Class Heroes in that, take a look at my girlfriend, as Travis McCoy's girlfriend, and being like, who's this girl? And she came out with hit after hit after hit. And her music was authentic. Her music was indie. Her music was rock. Her music was just full of Katy. Like earlier on in the video where I was saying that Thinking of You is possibly one of my favorite songs by Katy Perry of all time, because I genuinely feel the love and the passion it is that she felt whilst singing that song. A song about being so besotted with another human being, but being tied into a relationship that you aren't ready to leave yet, which is something that a lot of people have experienced, and it felt real and it felt raw. And even to this day, when I hear this song, tears roll down my eyes thinking about how two people could be so perfect for each other and just be passing ships, because it's not meant to be in this lifetime. And that's the Katy Perry that I personally fell in love with. The dark horse, the California girls, the raw, the It's a Woman's World, this commercial pop side of Katy Perry doesn't feel authentic to me. I mean, for goodness sake, I must be the only person who doesn't like Firework. It is so overdone. And yes, it's beautifully written and it is an anthem for everybody. It was just so commercial. And for me, the Katy I enjoyed was Small Time Katy. Was Katy who was singing things that weren't politically correct, like you're so gay and you don't even like boys. She was relatable. She was endearing. She was singing from the heart. She played her guitar. And it's just so sad to see another person in celebrity, in Hollywood, in media, just completely lose themselves in that world. To the point that even when she was doing her promotion for the Witness Tour and she had this elaborate Big Brother styled 4-day live stream that was hosted on YouTube, she tried to be relatable to us, but it just didn't connect. Because while she's trying all these hats on of all the versions of Katy that she can be, she's kind of just lost herself. There are various different artists that can do loads of different areas. A prime example of that would be somebody like Lady Gaga. We had the Monster Lady Gaga. We had the Born This Way Lady Gaga. We had Joanne. We had even her little jazz era with Tony Bennett. When Lady Gaga tries all of these hats on, she is fully immersed and fully involved in the culture and the ethos of whatever it is that she's involved in. It doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel performative, because she really is just living and breathing that shit. Lady Gaga isn't just a pop artist, she is a performer. She is a performance artist. Therefore, she can't be framed in one box because her way of working is method. I mean, this is the woman who went and presented awards at an award ceremony dressed up as a dude for her song You and I. Because if Lady Gaga was going to give you a soft rock anthem, she was going to embody it. Because if Lady Gaga was going to sing Born This Way, she was going to hatch out of an egg. None of it was performative. It was just pure art. And that pure art of Katy Perry hasn't been seen in so long. And with all of the recent escapades, I don't know if Katy Perry is ever going to be able to find that stride again with her music. But as a person, I would argue that she needs to decenter herself. Stop requesting that corporate entities like Wendy's take down their posts asking if Katy Perry can go back to space. Be a part of the laugh. Have a giggle at yourself. It would make you seem so much more relatable. I don't know, I feel as if I'm in just a little bit of a juxtaposition as to whether I think that Katy Perry is a horrible person or whether I think that Katy Perry is just a woman who's lost in Hollywood. So for me personally, Katy Perry honestly is a reminder that staying relevant isn't all about changing your look or your sound. It's really about understanding the world in which you are performing in. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's video. It has taken me like 2 days to record this, so hopefully you have enjoyed this. I just want to say a massive thank you to Katy, one of my researchers. She had to get this story together in a very short amount of time, and I really appreciate you getting this together for me. I also want to let you guys know that the first episode of the Paige Christie Show is actually up on my channel, and the second episode will be up for you guys tomorrow. And we are going to be talking about some very dramatic things, and some things it is that I'm involved in too, so definitely go and check that out. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't, I don't give a shit anyway. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification with the bell. And just before I go, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Love and Pies for sponsoring today's video. Definitely go ahead and check the link in the description box down below. Click it, it greatly helps my channel when you do. Or you can scan the QR code somewhere here on the screen so that you can get your hands on Love and Pies. And with that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day or evening, whatever the hell it is that you are doing. And until next time, it's a woman's world and you're lucky to be living in it. Oh. Bye.